Rejected Moon. Episode 4, The Iron Road. Written by Mia. There is a kind of courage that is really only the refusal to let other people pay for what you are. It is not the brave sort. It does not feel like bravery from the inside. It feels like the only door left in a burning house. I did not blow the whistle, and I did not run, and I did not hide in the croft and let the iron gray riders go up into gray water and ask their cold questions of frightened people who would, in the end, give me up to make them leave. I had spent 19 years letting the hollow decide what I was. I was not going to spend the morning of my 20th letting it decide what I was worth. So I walked up the ridge path toward the only home I had ever had, with my mother's bitten moon cold against my breastbone and a stranger's horn whistle in my fist, to stand in the road myself. The path took me past the spring where Ronan had told me what I was, and past the leaning rock where I had watched the riders come, and I did not let myself look at either, because if I looked I would start bargaining with the morning, and there is no bargaining with iron gray. My legs carried me the way they had carried laundry past the warrior's hall for 19 years, out of long habit, out of the body knowing how to move when the mind has gone somewhere quiet. Below me the hollow opened out, its lodges and its cook fires and its 300 souls, and from above it looked smaller than it had ever looked, a handful of timber and smoke in a fold of the hills, the whole of my world and not, in the end, very much of one. I had been so afraid of it for so long. It was a strange thing to come down toward it now more afraid for it than of it. I told myself it was for them. The pups, Hesper, even Tessa with her river pearls and her fear. I told myself that, and it was even partly true. But the warmth in my chest had woken all the way up as the riders neared, and it was not afraid, and it was not meek, and somewhere under the fear that was making my legs unreliable there was a second thing, low and level and entirely new, that wanted very much to look the people who had hunted my mother in the eye. They were already on the central ground when I came down into the hollow. The whole pack had drawn back to the edges of it, 300 wolves pressed into the gaps between the lodges, and in the cleared middle sat the 3 gray riders on their gray horses, and the morning had gone wrong around them exactly, as it had on the road.
No birds.
No wind. The cook fires guttering low, as though even the flames wanted to be small. The pack had made themselves into a wall of backs and lowered eyes, 300 wolves who had spent their whole lives certain of exactly where everyone stood, and who now did not dare to stand anywhere at all. I saw Hesper with a pup's face pressed into her skirts, so the child would not have to look. I saw the warriors holding the edges of the ground with their hackles up and their gaze down, men brave enough to die in a border skirmish and nowhere near brave enough for this. And I saw Tessa, her river pearls gone dull in the gray light, and she was not wearing her kind-seeming smile now. She was only a frightened girl exactly my own age, and when our eyes met across the dead circle hers went wide, and I watched her understand. The way you understand that a drop is deeper than it looked, what it was the riders had come all this way to collect. The warden had dismounted. That was the worst of it, that they had felt safe enough to get down off the horse. The warden was a tall figure robed in that bone-pale iron gray, and where the hood fell back the face beneath was neither cruel nor kind. It was administrative, the face of someone for whom my whole line was a clerical matter that had been left untidily open for a few generations and would now, at last, be closed. When the warden spoke, the voice carried without being raised, the way cold carries. A light was kindled here, the warden said, 4 nights ago, beneath the choosing moon. A light of a particular quality. We have ridden a long way to put it out, as is our charge and our mercy. The pale eyes moved over the pressed back pack without haste. Bring it to me, and we are gone by midday. Hide it, and Greywater learns what the Argent Council does to a pack that harbors a plague in its blood. Bronn was on his knees. Old Bronn, who kept the records, who had written something quickly under the moon 4 nights ago. He was on his knees in the dirt with his hands open, and I watched his mouth begin to shape the truth, the easy, survivable truth. It was the Omega, the no-house girl. She's at the Boundary Croft. Take her and go. I watched him begin to trade me for the morning. And then Cale stepped between Bronn and the Warden and put his body in the way of the words. There's no plague in Greywater. Cale's voice was flat and even and enormous in the silence. He stood with his back to me, to all of us, facing the Iron Grey alone, and he had come unarmed and undefended into the cleared ground the way an alpha does when he means his body to be the argument. A choosing burned bright.
Choosing's-do.
A frightened pack saw an omen in it because frightened packs always do. There is no Moonborn here, Warden. There hasn't been one in this country for 100 years, by your own council's count. The Warden regarded him the way you regard, whether you have seen before. You are the Alpha. I am. Then you will know that lying to the council is the one debt we always collect. The pale eyes did not blink. I can smell it on the whole valley. It is on you most of all, under the anger, under the pride. You have stood close to it. You have stood very close to it. A long pale hand lifted, unhurried, and gestured at the silent pack. It was matched to you, wasn't it? That is the thing your records will say when we read them. The light was your fated match, and you cut it loose to save your title, and now you stand in the road for it anyway. Something that was not quite amusement moved in the administrative face. How that must ache. The Warden began, then, to walk, a slow, unhurried circuit of the cleared ground, hands folded, the way an inspector walks a granary, and where the Iron Grey past the pack flinched back another step as one body. Let me tell you what happens now, Alpha, so that you may make your choice with open eyes. The Warden said, conversational, almost gentle. You give us the light, and by midday we are only a story Greywater tells its pups to make them behave. Or you keep it, out of pride, out of that ache you are so carefully not showing me, and the council comes. Not 3 of us. All of us. And we do not close a file by halves. We have unmade packs down to the last whelp for less than what I can smell standing in this valley, and we have always, every time, slept well after. Because we are merciful, and mercy is only the swiftness of the blade. The pale eyes returned to Cale and rested there, patient as winter.
So,
the girl or the hollow. You have until I finish crossing this circle. I saw Cale's shoulders go rigid. I saw, even from behind, the exact moment the Warden's words found the wound and pressed, and I understood with a lurch that they were not going to leave, that the lie would not hold, that this had only ever had one ending, and it was walking down the ridge path on my own 2 feet to meet it. So I stopped telling myself it was for them, and I stepped out of the crowd into the cleared ground, into the cold, dead circle where the morning had stopped, and I said, in a voice that did not shake nearly as much as I had feared it would, "You're looking for me." Everything happened slowly after that, the way the worst things do. Cale turned. I had time to see his face do something I had no name for, fury and terror and a wild, useless no, before he mastered it, before the Alpha came down over it like a portcullis. "Ren," he said low, a warning and a plea folded into one syllable. "Get back." I did not get back. I walked to the center of the dead circle, past him, near enough that the cut bond between us screamed at the closeness, and I made myself look up into the pale, administrative face of the thing that had hunted my mother through the snow, and I held the bitten moon out from my chest on its worn cord so that the warden could see it. The warden went still. For the first time, something that was not procedure crossed that face, recognition, and under it so briefly, I might have imagined it something almost like awe. That token died with the last of them, the warden said softly. In the high pass, I was there. I counted the dead myself. You counted wrong. My voice was steadier now, not less afraid, but past it, out the other side into that low-level thing. By one, by a baby in an old woman's arms, going east while the snow came down pink. You've been closing your tidy file on the wrong number for 19 years, Warden. I did not know where the words were coming from. The warmth in my chest was pouring up into them, patient and enormous and finally awake. My mother burned herself like the dawn so you'd chase the light and not the cradle. And you fell for it. The great Argent Council. You hunted a torch she lit to fool you, and you rode home and slept, and the whole time the thing you were sworn to put out was learning to carry laundry 3 valleys away. The warden looked at me for a long moment, and the administrative calm did not break, but the pale hand had gone very still. You should not exist, the warden said, and for the first time there was something almost like grief in it. The grief of a sum that will not come right no matter how carefully you work it. Do you understand what you are, child? Not a wolf. Not a Luna. A door the moon left standing open, in a world that spent 4 generations and an ocean of blood learning to keep every door shut. We did not hunt your kind because we hated you. We hunted you because a thing that cannot be ruled cannot be permitted, and a thing that cannot be made to lie will, in the end, be believed. And then where is the order we have all agreed to live inside? The hand lifted a degree. I am sorry. I find that I mean it. But I have closed this file, once already with the wrong number at the bottom of it, and I will not be made a fool of by the same line twice. Ren. That was Mara's voice, somewhere at the edge, thin with fear. Ren, don't. The warden's hand came up, not in threat, in habit, the gesture of a clerk reaching to correct an error, and there was a knife in it now, a thin pale blade the color of the robes, and the pale eyes had gone flat and final. Then the file closes today, the warden said, and properly this time, and stepped toward me. 3 things happened at once. The whistle was already at my lips. I do not remember deciding it. Only that Ronan's gray horn was suddenly between my teeth, and I blew, hard, and no sound that I could hear came out of it at all. Just a silence that was somehow louder than a scream, a silence that punched outward across the valley and east, toward the ridge, toward 3 valleys of dark trees. I felt that silence go out of me and keep going, felt it cross the fences and the fallow fields and the first dark line of pines, felt it reach for the place where a silver wolf had promised to come faster than anything with 4 legs had a right to, and felt, far off, almost too far to be certain of, something vast lift its head and begin to run. It would not be in time. I knew that even as I blew. 3 valleys is 3 valleys, and the pale blade was already moving, and there are debts that come due faster than any creature alive can pay them. But the warmth in my chest did not seem to know that or did not care. It had heard the whistle, and it had felt me choose at last to stand in the road instead of forever beside it, and it was rising now to meet the blade on its own terms, with the wolf from the east, or without him. Kale moved. After everything. After the rejection under the open moon, after Greywater cannot have an Omega Luna, after he had cut me loose in front of 300 people to save his title, Kale moved, faster than I had ever seen a wolf move, and put himself between me and the pale blade with his arms spread and his back to me, his whole body a wall in the road. And I heard him snarl one word at the warden that was not an alpha's word at all, that was raw and personal and far too late and absolutely meant mine. And the thing in my chest, the banked sun, the woken blood, the patient enormous warmth that had leaned toward every closed door in my life, it heard the whistle silence, and it heard Kale's word, and it heard the pale blade part the air, and it decided, all at once, and without asking me, that it was done being put out. The light came up out of me like the dawn. I had spent 19 years making myself small, a fist closed around a candle, a girl in the gaps between other people's elbows, an apology worn in the shape of a person. And in that one breath, in the dead cold circle with a pale blade coming for my heart, and the only home I had ever known holding its breath at my back, I stopped. I simply stopped holding the candle shut. I let go of all 19 years at once. The way you finally set down a weight you have carried so long you forgot it was not a part of your own body, and the thing that had been waiting behind all that careful smallness since before I was born rose up into the light of an ordinary gray morning to be seen at last, whether or not the world had ever troubled to find a word for it. It did not feel like power. That is the part no one believed when I tried, afterward, to tell it. It did not feel like vengeance or triumph or even fear. It felt like being, for the first and only time in my life, exactly the right size. It felt like the first honest breath I had ever drawn. It did not pool, and it did not flare and gutter the way it had under the choosing moon. It rose, white and total, out of my chest and my hands and the marks of my mother's blood, and the bell note that had woken the mountains 4 nights ago rang out again, but close now, deafening, here, and the dead cold circle where the morning had stopped came violently, blindingly back to life. The cook fires roared up tall. The iron-gray horses screamed. I saw the warden's administrative face open at last into something human, something that after a lifetime of putting out other people's light had not believed, until this exact instant, that any of it could ever be turned the other way. And then the white took everything, and the last thing I knew was Kale's hand closing hard around my wrist, and Mara's voice crying a word I had never heard in a language I should not have understood, and the ground coming up, and the moon, though it was full morning, though there was no moon in the sky, the moon answering me from the wrong side of the world. The light went out. And when I tell you what I saw when it came back, what was left standing in that circle and what was not, and whose hand was still around my wrist, and the thing that came out of the eastern trees a heartbeat too late and a great deal too angry, you're going to want to be sitting down. But that is the next part of the story. To be continued in episode 5. That was episode 4 of Rejected Moon. If the moon has you now, the next episode is waiting. Subscribe so you don't lose the trail. The complete book is available on Amazon, and early episodes and bonus chapters are on my Patreon. Links are in the description.
I've Mia.
Thank you for listening.